Okay, let's begin. Um, so welcome everyone to our webinar about WhatsApp chatbots versus web-based chatbots. If you guys are repeat viewers of our webinars, you'll know that we've taken a little bit of a break from the webinar game for the last couple of weeks, and that is with good reason. About a month ago, we launched WhatsApp chatbots on the TARS platform, and in that time, in that month since we launched, we have thrown ourselves headfirst into the technology to learn everything that we can about it so that we can help business people like you, customer service heads, marketers, just like you guys, implement the technology as efficiently as possible to attain the best possible results for your guys' businesses. And this webinar is actually a product of that research. While we were doing the research, we compared everything that we learned about WhatsApp chatbots to everything that we already knew about web-based chatbots, because we've been in the web-based chatbot space for a couple of years now. And we figured out that there are a couple of key differences that people who are jumping into this space should know about when they are getting in. And a couple of you guys even asked us what the differences were between our traditional web-based chatbot offerings and the newer WhatsApp chatbot offerings. So we figured we'd just create this webinar to share our learnings with you guys from the last month so that you guys are up to speed with everything that you need to know about these two platforms, how they compare with each other, and how you can best use each one. Now, as always with these webinars, we like to start with intros, just so that you guys know who we are and where our knowledge is coming from, so that I don't just seem like a disembodied head on your screen spewing information at you guys. So I'm Arnav. I am a marketer over here at TARS. I help businesses implement chatbots better in their customer service stacks, in their marketing stacks, by creating content just like this. So I create webinars, I create blog posts, I create guides to help you guys make better use of chatbots. Now, in the bigger picture, as a company, we have been in this space since 2016, and we have been helping customer experience and marketing teams boost their customer engagement numbers through chatbots. So whether that's lead gen, whether that's traditional customer support, we help you do that more efficiently through chatbots. And we're going to get into how we exactly do that a little bit in this webinar. Now, with those intros out of the way, we can actually jump into the actual meat of this webinar. There are basically four things that we are going to do in this webinar. The first is we're going to cover some basics that you guys need to know before we can actually jump into the main topic of comparing web and WhatsApp chatbots. Then we're going to jump into the actual comparison between the two, discussing the pros and cons of each platform. Third, we are going to discuss which of the options you should choose. And I'm going to give you guys a hint right now. This is a little bit of a trick question. And then finally, at the end, with the time that we have left, I'm going to open it up for questions. If you guys have any questions, if you guys want any further clarifications. That being said, while I'm going along in the session, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'll try my best to answer them as I'm going along. Now with that, let's jump into the first part of the webinar, the basics. Before we can compare what a web-based chatbot is and what a web-based and WhatsApp chatbot are, we need to be on the same page about what each of these terms mean. And a good place to start is the similarity between them. And that's, of course, the term chatbot. Now, the definition that I have opened up on the screen right now, a computer program designed to simulate a conversation with human users to facilitate a trade of information and services, is a fairly textbook definition of chatbots. If you think about lead generation use cases, customer service use cases, they all essentially fit this mold. If you're collecting lead information from a customer through a chatbot, that's essentially facilitating a trade of information from the user to your business so that you can follow up with them later and convert them into a paying customer. If you're doing customer service, similarly, you're getting their query, you're sending them a ticket number. Again, that's information trading hands between you, the business, and your customers. Now, the question that we are going to be focusing on in this webinar, as it pertains to this particular definition, is where is that conversation happening? So chatbots are pieces of software that have conversations with your customers, but where are they having that conversation? And the two answers to this question, as the title of this webinar suggests, are first, the web. So in a web-based chatbot, the chatbot is having a conversation with the user on a regular web page. If you look at this image over here, this chatbot is living on a standard web page. You can see the URL bar at the top. It's opened up in Chrome. If you open this up and went under the hood, you'd be able to see that it's just regular old HTML, CSS, JavaScript, like you'd expect from a traditional landing page or a website. The only difference is that on the front end, it behaves, it talks, it looks like a chatbot. Now, the second option that we have on the TARS builder is, of course, a WhatsApp chatbot. And essentially, a WhatsApp chatbot, it functions similar to the web-based chatbot. It still has that conversation with your customers. It still has that conversation with your users, but it does so in the context of WhatsApp. So for this, you need to have a WhatsApp business account. You need to have WhatsApp business API access. If you're interested in learning more about that, you should check out our previous webinar. We cover everything that you need to know about getting those two things. And then once you have those things, once you have WhatsApp business API access, once you have a WhatsApp business number, you essentially have an account that WhatsApp lets users message. And then once they message that account, those messages essentially get sent to your conversational engine. Ideally, you're using TARS. And then the conversational engine will respond to the messages that got sent to it based on a conversational flow that you guys define in whichever builder you're using. Again, hopefully you guys are using TARS. So now that we have those things out of the way, we can actually get into what the pros and cons of each of these approaches are. Why is having a conversation on the web better than having a conversation on WhatsApp, and vice versa? Why is having a conversation on WhatsApp better than having a conversation on the web? And now there are a million ways we could approach this question. But for the purposes of this webinar, to keep things short, I've pulled out the 4 most important ones that you guys absolutely need to know as you guys are moving forward in your chatbot journeys. And these 4 points are account management, control over the UI, retargeting, and discovery. Whether you are using chatbots for a lead gen use case, whether you're using it for a customer service use case, whether you're using it for internal HR, you need to know all 4 of these differences to make an informed decision about which chatbot will work best in your specific use case. So let's start with the first one, account management. Now, as you guys probably know, to interact with a WhatsApp chatbot, the user needs to have a WhatsApp account. There's no way for that user to talk to a WhatsApp chatbot unless they are logged into WhatsApp. Now that can be viewed as a con because it adds a layer of friction for the user. They have to be logged into WhatsApp. And if they don't have WhatsApp, they obviously can't interact with your chatbot. Now, I suspect that for most of you guys on this webinar today, that's not going to be much of an issue because WhatsApp is so ubiquitous today, it's so universal that pretty much everyone has a WhatsApp account. But in that tiny edge case, it can be viewed as a con because for that one person out of 1,000 who doesn't have WhatsApp, if they see a link or they see a prompt to go talk to a WhatsApp chatbot, they can't do it because they don't have WhatsApp. Now, there is also a pro hidden away in here as well. Since users are always logged in when they're interacting with a WhatsApp chatbot, you have to be logged into WhatsApp to talk to the WhatsApp chatbot. You always have access to their phone number. Now, this is particularly important if you're using chatbots for your marketing. We all know how hard it is in traditional marketing, in traditional lead gen to get a phone number from someone. People are very apprehensive about sharing that stuff with you, those sorts of details. But if you get people to opt into a WhatsApp chatbot, that number is yours. You have access to it for however long you want. You can collect it right at the beginning. But you essentially have access to that number for follow-ups for whatever you want to do with that lead information. So there's a pro and a con in here. Now, web-based chatbots are a very different story. In web-based chatbots, users don't have to create an account to interact with them, which is great, obviously, because that reduces the friction involved in actually getting into the web-based chatbot and interacting with the web-based chatbot. But at the same time, it also has a con with it. It's sort of the inverse of the WhatsApp chatbot, right? Because people don't have to have an account, because people don't have to log in to interact with the chatbot, they don't have any details shared with you when they start the conversation. So you can get through an entire lead conversation, you can get through an entire customer service conversation, but if they don't share their email with you, if they don't share their phone number with you, then what's the point of having that conversation? You can't follow up with them. If you're spending money on ads to bring them to that chatbot, that's money wasted for you. And that's a real problem. If you guys have been in this space for some time, you'll know that getting people to share that sort of information is hard. So that's definitely a con of the web-based chatbot approach. Now moving on to the second factor that you guys need to consider, control over the UI. This is a big one. In WhatsApp chatbots, since the conversation is happening in the WhatsApp app, you have no control over the UI. That is completely designed by Facebook, by the people at Facebook and the people at WhatsApp. They decide how the UI is going to look. They decide what input UIs you can use. They decide, they've already decided for you guys that you can't have any branding in there. The only real lever that you have to interact with your customers to define the user experience is the messaging, is the actual text that you send to your users in your conversational flow. And this can be a real deal breaker for a lot of people, because if you think about it, if your leads, for example, involve collecting things, very complex queries that require custom UIs, you really can't do that through WhatsApp. So that can be a real problem. That's a real con in the favor of WhatsApp. You could try to spin a pro out of this. You could try to spin a pro out of this feature, out of this aspect of WhatsApp chatbots, by saying that people trust the WhatsApp interface, they use it every single day. But largely speaking, I'd say that from a usability standpoint, from a data collection standpoint, this is definitely a con in WhatsApp's column, because again, it's taking away control from you, the customer service or the marketing person at your business. Now, with web-based chatbots, it's completely different. You have complete control. Well, I won't say that you have complete control, because you're probably still using a WhatsApp or a chatbot builder like Tars or some other chatbot builder maybe. But if you're using a chatbot builder like Tars, you have more control over it. We do let you change the branding in the chatbot. So for example, if you look at this chatbot over here, you can see that the buttons are colored red because it matches the company's branding colors. You can also see that we're using buttons. This is not possible in WhatsApp chatbots, because WhatsApp has decided that buttons are not a UI that they want to offer. So you can't use buttons. And of course, you can still control the messaging. So you still have that benefit from WhatsApp. So this is definitely a point in favor of the WhatsApp chatbots. The third front on which we need to compare these two webinars, these two chatbot platforms, is in their ability to handle retargeting. So on WhatsApp chatbots, one of the killer features of WhatsApp chatbots is essentially that any person who opts in to your, skipped ahead a slide, but any person who opts into your WhatsApp chatbot is essentially a subscriber in an email list. You can think about it like this: if someone talks to your WhatsApp chatbot, that WhatsApp chat is going to be in their inbox forever, pretty much. When was the last time you deleted a conversation on WhatsApp? It does happen, but rarely. They might mute it, but they're still going to get the messages if you send it to them. And you can essentially treat them as a subscriber who you can send messages to in the future to retarget them with offers, with coupons, or in the case of customer service, if there's an ongoing conversation where, for example, they ask a question, you can update them about their ticket status. You can update them about their queries. Now, the other good thing about WhatsApp on this front is because a lot of this is possible in web-based chatbots technically, but open rates are really high. There is a high novelty factor with WhatsApp chatbots. It's a very new technology, and with most new technologies, open rates tend to be really high. Back when Messenger chatbots came out in 2016, open rates were through the roof. They were 90% plus. So if you sent messages to people over messengers, there was a good chance that they were going to actually read it. And that's a very different situation than the case with older channels like the web push notifications, which we'll get to in the next slide. So do consider that, at least I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, at least for the next couple of years, open rates are going to be very high. So if you do use WhatsApp chatbots for retargeting, if you leverage your capability of using everyone who opts in to your WhatsApp chatbot as a subscriber, all of those people are going to be reading those offers that you send them. All of those people are going to be reading those follow-ups, and you can turn them into return customers, into repeat business. But there is a caveat over here. This sort of ties into what we were talking about with the control over the UI. In WhatsApp chatbots, since you don't control the user interface, since it's not in a regular web page, like with a web-based chatbot, you can't use any marketing tags. So the retargeting is great on WhatsApp. You can essentially convert all of the people who opt into the conversation into subscribers, into an owned audience, essentially. But you can only leverage that owned audience on WhatsApp. If you want to retarget them with ads anywhere else, you can't do that because you can't incorporate any of those regular marketing tags that you would incorporate into a regular web page or a web-based chatbot. So moving on to web-based chatbots, I think that's a good point to move over to web-based chatbots. You can't message users to bring them back into the conversation unless they opt in for push notifications, which is definitely a possibility. But as I mentioned, push notifications don't have very high open rate. When was the last time you clicked on a web push notification? It's comparatively a very low open rate. But again, on the pro side, you can use marketing tags. So if you want to add a Facebook pixel, if you want to add Google Ads conversion tracking onto your web-based chatbot, you can do that because, again, at the end of the day, under the hood, even though it looks, feels, and behaves like a chatbot, under the hood, it's just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It's just a regular web page. With that, we can move on to the third point to compare these two platforms, discovery. You'll find, as we're going through this, that there are some recurring themes that come through when we're talking about all of these things, and they're all sort of related to each other. And discovery is no different. On WhatsApp, there are very specific ways people can get onto your WhatsApp chatbots. We discussed this in our last webinar, but there are essentially 4. Someone can actually go to the number where your WhatsApp chatbot is registered, go to your WhatsApp business number and say hi. You can use a WhatsApp chatbot as a Facebook ad post-click experience. So Facebook gives you the option, because they own WhatsApp, obviously, for people to click on one of your ads and then be dropped directly into a conversation with a WhatsApp chatbot. Which is a really cool feature, not gonna lie. The third option is a QR code, obviously. So you can take a QR code, put it up on your physical ad campaigns and have people scan that to jump into your WhatsApp chatbot. And of course, you can have web widgets. So there's a widget in the bottom right corner of your website or your landing page. They click on that and they get sent over to WhatsApp. Now, the issue with this form of discovery is that you might need to make some adjustments to your marketing efforts because people aren't used to using WhatsApp as a way to interact with businesses. And it doesn't, again, since it's in a proprietary app controlled by Facebook, it doesn't play as nicely with your traditional channels as something like a web-based chatbot, which is a regular web page. But that being said, once users are opted in, like we mentioned earlier with the owned audience marketing, with the retargeting, once users are opted in, you can essentially use the WhatsApp list itself as a discovery channel, because everyone who's opted in can now be reached out to again over WhatsApp for that retargeting. So again, a pro and a con over here in favor of WhatsApp. And then our web-based chatbots, it's exactly the opposite. Again, recurring theme over here. Web-based chatbots, the cool thing about them is you can essentially have the same discovery channels that you do with a WhatsApp chatbot. People can find your web-based chatbot wherever it lives on the web and say hi. You can add it, since it has a regular URL, you can add it as your landing page for your Facebook ad. You can put it behind a QR code. You can have it as a web widget. We have one on our website, but you can also use that link in places that aren't in the Facebook ecosystem. So if you run Google ads, you can't really use a WhatsApp chatbot unless you get people to land on your landing page and then click onto a WhatsApp chatbot web widget. In that case, it would probably make more sense to just go with a web-based chatbot, right? Because they click on your Google ad and they drop right into your conversational landing page. Less friction, less hassle for the user. So in general, web-based chatbots slot in better to your existing channels because you probably have over the last few years, over the last decades, however long you've been in business, built up your online presence on the web. And web-based chatbots, because they're regular web pages with links, with HTML, with CSS, with JavaScript on the back end, can slot into that very easily. But again, this goes back to the retargeting point. People don't open push notifications, so getting someone to come back as an owned audience member is kind of difficult. It's very hard to get people to come back by clicking on a push notification compared to WhatsApp chatbots. People do this effectively, but people do this effectively in some cases, but it's undoubtedly harder because there's no novelty around web-based chatbots anymore, I think. Or there's no novelty around them like there is around WhatsApp chatbots. People are still very excited about WhatsApp chatbots when they interact with them. They're fascinated by them, and they open the messages that get sent to them through that channel. With that, let's move on to, I believe, the last. Did we cover all of them? I think we did. So with that, we can actually decide. We can actually go through and sort of assess which option is the best for you. So you guys must be wondering now. Okay, so each of these platforms has their own pros and their cons. Which one should you choose? And I mentioned at the beginning that this is a little bit of a trick question, and I stand by that claim, because essentially you should choose both. When you think about it, the pros and cons of each of these platforms don't really conflict with one another. You can and you should use both channels in your customer service or in your marketing stacks, because you can essentially take it as getting the best of both worlds. You can benefit from the pros of WhatsApp chatbots. You can benefit from the pros of web-based chatbots. And where the WhatsApp chatbot can't function, you can use the web-based chatbot. And this isn't really a new concept in either the sphere of customer service or the sphere of marketing. For a long time now, the term omni-channel has been a buzzword in both of these spheres. You need to be where your customers are regardless of channel. You need to be agnostic of channel. And your customers are hanging out in both WhatsApp and on the web. So you should ideally be in both places with your chatbot. They should have the option of interacting with you through a chatbot on the web if they want to, or on WhatsApp if they want to. You should leave that choice essentially up to them. So for example, as I mentioned, you can use a WhatsApp chatbot as a landing page for your Facebook ads. So go ahead and do that. But if you also run Google ads, if you also run LinkedIn ads, if you also have your regular web-based channels that you've built up over decades, it might not make sense to have WhatsApp chatbots over there. So you could have a web-based chatbot over there. Again, they're not conflicting with each other. They're both achieving their ends. They're both giving you benefits of each platform. It makes sense to have both of them in this case. And of course, you can also use these two channels to benefit each other. So for example, if you run Google ads and you send people to a conversational landing page where they are interacting with a web-based chatbot, at the end of that conversation, you can prompt them to continue the conversation in WhatsApp. So if they finish the lead generation flow, you can say, hey, if you want WhatsApp updates, click on this button and I'll start a conversation with you over there and I can update you about stuff over there. And that is pretty much our take on this question of WhatsApp chatbots versus web-based chatbots. If you are serious about getting in the conversational tech game, you need to adopt an omni-channel approach that incorporates both of them, because they both have potential and they both have their own pros and cons, and you can essentially reap the benefits of both of them. And actually, before I forget, we're getting a lot of questions over here in the chat, and I'm going to get to them in just a couple of minutes over here. Before I forget, one thing that I would recommend that you guys be wary of, just from my experience being in the chatbot space in 2016 when Messenger chatbots came out, I know it's very exciting to think about WhatsApp chatbots as the be-all and end-all, as the next big thing, especially in customer service circles, where customer service automation, especially in light of the COVID crisis, has come to the fore. I know it can be tempting to think of WhatsApp chatbots as the be-all and end-all. They put all your eggs into the WhatsApp basket. But just remember that when you do that, you're essentially putting all of your faith into Facebook's hands. And at any moment, they could decide that WhatsApp chatbots aren't their priority, that they don't want to allocate as much attention as they are right now to the platform, and they could do things to essentially mess with your flows that you've built, you've worked so hard to build up over time, and that's a serious point to consider, because a lot of people after Messenger chatbots essentially failed. I don't really know anyone who interacts with Messenger chatbots. were caught in a little bit of a quandary when Facebook essentially started pulling the plug on messenger chatbots, or started focusing less on messenger chatbots. And if you look at a lot of people out there who've been doing work in the messenger chatbot space, you'll see that they've also started to move into other spaces as well, as messenger has sort of fallen down in Facebook's priority list. So again, if there's one takeaway that you have to take from all of this, WhatsApp chatbots are great for owned audience marketing. Web-based chatbots are great for slotting into your existing channels. They both have the benefits of being a chatbot. They're both very conversational, and you should use both of them in your stacks, depending on the specific channel, depending on the specific use case. And with that, I think we can actually move on to the Q&A section of this webinar, because I see that we are getting a lot of them in the chat, and I would be more than happy to answer them. So let us start with the first question. Are there any new features in the WhatsApp API? I'm not sure when the last time you took a look at the WhatsApp API was, but in the last couple of months, not that I know of. I think the WhatsApp chatbot API has remained relatively the same. And again, this gets back to what I was talking about with the messenger chatbots. I think Facebook went with a much more open, much more proactive approach with messenger chatbots when they launched them. And they did not have a good experience with that. Let's just say what ended up happening was there was a glut of messenger chatbots in the market. There were a lot of messenger chatbots that just got published that weren't particularly good. It alienated a lot of customers, alienated a lot of consumers, and people didn't start using them. So I think WhatsApp is taking a little bit more of a measured approach with their bot platform, and they're rolling them out very slowly. So that's why you have to go through the extra hoops of getting WhatsApp API access. That's why they want to vet you. That's why they're going a little bit slower in the development of the WhatsApp business platform and the WhatsApp chatbot platform. The next question that we have over here is, can HTML web of a chatbot connect with an Android app? That is a great question, Pankaj. You can technically take a web-based chatbot and essentially put it in an iframe and host it as an app. That is possible. We do have customers who have done that before. If you are interested in something like that, you should definitely reach out to us. I'm just going to move this to the next slide. In case any of you guys need to leave and you want to reach out to us with more questions later, feel free to reach out to us through these channels, and I'll continue answering the questions that people are asking us over here. We have a question over here from Georgie. Does WhatsApp allow you to essentially use bots in a group chat? Unfortunately, they don't. So this gets back to what I was saying earlier about the new features in WhatsApp, WhatsApp's chatbot API. They're taking a very measured approach with this platform. They don't want to go down the same path that they did with Messenger. They don't want to have all of these chatbots out in the market that alienate customers. So they're taking a very measured approach, and they have not opened it up to group messaging yet. I'd be very excited to see the sorts of bots that are possible with that. For example, if you go to Telegram, there are a lot of cool group messaging bots, but as of right now, you can't do that in WhatsApp as of yet. Can people leave the WhatsApp chat? They can. I mean, essentially like the same way that you would leave a regular chat with someone, you just delete the chat and block the number, I guess. You can do that with a WhatsApp chatbot as well. A WhatsApp chatbot essentially has an account just like a person does. It's just that instead of those messages going to someone's phone, those messages are going through an API to a conversational engine. So you can essentially interact with that WhatsApp account in the same way that you would with one of your friends or your family. So if I go back in these slides, all the way back to where I had a screenshot of WhatsApp chatbots, here you go. It just looks like a regular chat. It does have this little check mark over here to indicate that it's verified. But if you click on the TARS option up here, if you click on the name, you're essentially going to see the same interface that you would talking to your friends or your family. Let's take one from the Q&A. Can any brand name define its own UI in Facebook and WhatsApp bot? As I've seen many brands doing it already. I'm not quite sure what you mean by define its own UI and that you've seen it already, because Facebook and WhatsApp do not allow you to implement custom UI. I think Facebook has limited functionality to this end. You can do quick reply options. You can do a persistent menu in Facebook Messenger, but in WhatsApp, they have taken a very, again, measured approach, a very strict stance on this, where essentially you can set your profile picture, you can set your name, you can apply to get verified, so you can get the check mark. But after that, you're pretty much just sending them messages. And I know a lot of people like using quick replies, and one workaround that we have found in the conversational text space to get around the issue of not having buttons as an option in a chatbot is we essentially take buttons like the ones that you're seeing on your screen right now, and we display it to them as a numbered list. So they essentially have to say which number option they want from the list, and that's how you proceed the conversation forward through quick replies. It's not an ideal solution, but it works. I've interacted with chatbots that use that system, and it's a lot more frictionless than you'd think. So I highly recommend checking something like that out. Yeah, that's pretty much the only UI that's pretty much the only UI customization you can do in WhatsApp. Can we get access to the WhatsApp Business API key? You can. There is an application process. You have to go through a third-party vendor. And we actually, at TARS, we help you guys with that entire process. So if you are looking to get a WhatsApp Business API key, I'm going to go all the way to the Contact Us slide. Contact us through any of these channels. Ideally, if you want to, go to this link over here. I'm going to actually go ahead and send this link to you guys in the chat. Because it will be a lot easier for you guys to reach out to us. Copy link address. Let's go to the chat. So go ahead and click on that link that I just sent in the chat. If you book a demo with us, we can walk you through the entire process of getting a WhatsApp Business API key access. It takes a couple of weeks to do. It's a little bit bureaucratic, but we've done it before several times, and no doubt we can help you do it as well. I don't know why my slides are messing up over here a little bit. Zoom and Google Slides don't play too nicely with each other. Let us go through some more questions. Can you guys send a link for a WhatsApp chatbot demo with TARS? Yes, I actually just sent it to you on the chat. I have a nagging feeling that the person who asked this question might be on the TARS team, but I have sent that link on the chat. So you guys should be able to book a demo with us if you guys want to. If you guys want help getting set up with a WhatsApp chatbot, because this is a very new space. WhatsApp is taking a very measured approach. Now let's go through the chat because there are a lot of questions over here in the chat. Okay. Does WhatsApp chatbots work for multilingual conversations? That's a good question. I believe they do. I mean, essentially, WhatsApp chatbots should support any language that WhatsApp supports. So if your users are using WhatsApp, there's a good chance that they're using WhatsApp in their language. And if they're using WhatsApp in that language, that means WhatsApp supports that language. And if WhatsApp supports that language, that means WhatsApp chatbots support that language. Yeah, that's pretty much our take on the WhatsApp chatbot, on WhatsApp chatbots for multilingual conversations. How does intelligence for WhatsApp chatbot comes? Do we need to build, or Facebook can help you configure? Great question. Facebook does not help you configure your AI. You will have to use a service like API, or I guess they're called Dialogflow now, and hook that up into whatever service that you're using to build a chatbot. So for example, with the TARS builder, when people come to us and they want to build a chatbot with AI in it, we usually go with Dialogflow, and we can integrate Dialogflow with our builder. So whenever messages get sent to your WhatsApp chatbot, they get sent to your TARS, like your TARS builder where your chatbot is defined. And in the TARS builder, you can essentially integrate with Dialogflow, which will process those messages and essentially produce or essentially use natural language processing to process those messages and send a response. So it is possible to use artificial intelligence in your WhatsApp chatbots. You have to configure it yourself. Again, If you have questions about anything like this, we've been in this game for 4 years. We have implemented AI chatbots. We've implemented AI chatbots before. We have experience getting WhatsApp API access. Please use the link that we've shared in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and share it again, just for good measure. To book an appointment with us, we will help you guys work through any of these complex steps in the process. Let's move on to the next question. How much is the cost for acquiring the WhatsApp API access? Only the API, not the third-party conversational chatbot tool. That's a good question. It depends on the third-party API provider that you go with. If you want to discuss, discuss things like that, again, highly recommend that you book a demo with us, because it's really going to depend on the third-party API provider that you get. Hopefully, if someone from my team is here, maybe they can help me out with that. But yeah, book a demo with us, and we'll talk you through what it looks like with each of the third-party API providers. WhatsApp is going at this whole rollout in a very weird way. They're not giving direct API access to people like with Facebook Messenger bots, where you essentially just apply through your Facebook account. You have to go through a third-party API provider to get that access. Someone like Twilio, someone like Carix, someone like 360 Dialogue. Yeah, so it's, I don't know why they're, I know why they're going. I have a hunch about why they're going with this approach. It is because they don't want to have another Facebook Messenger on their hands. I heard that it's possible that WhatsApp would introduce buttons in the next API version. Do you know anything about this? It's quite possible, because buttons are a very popular feature in most bot platforms. So I'd imagine that WhatsApp is going to roll them out at some point very soon. The last I saw, they did not have buttons. So I've been building WhatsApp chatbots for the last couple of months, and they don't seem to have buttons in my experience. Let's go through and find some more questions. This is just going to take a minute. I have to scroll through some messages. Okay, here we have one. Can we build rule-based chatbot and do end-to-end conversation with doctors? That's a good question. You can make rule-based chatbots. Can you have an end-to-end conversation with a doctor? I believe you can. I know that WhatsApp has some restrictions on healthcare-related conversations. So part of the reason they make you apply for WhatsApp Business API access is essentially so that they can check that you're not selling a particular set of products. So, for example, they don't want you selling tobacco or alcohol, so they're going to essentially not allow tobacco and alcohol companies on. In the healthcare space, I believe they do not allow. They don't allow people to sell They don't allow people to sell pharmaceuticals, essentially. But I don't think it should be a problem to interact with a doctor on WhatsApp. Well, I guess it would get bogged down in maybe some form of regulation, but you can interact with healthcare companies. You just can't do things like sell pharmaceuticals on the platform. What about AI and NLP bots? I think we covered that already. You can incorporate AI into your WhatsApp chatbot through something like Dialogflow. Just take a Dialogflow, get access to Dialogflow API. So sign up for Dialogflow and integrate that with your TARS conversational flow that's connected to WhatsApp. And then any message that comes through your WhatsApp chatbot to your TARS conversational flow will interact with Dialogflow to process those messages and come up with a response. Again, we've actually, I think the webinar we did before our previous webinar, so the last webinar covered Dialogflow chatbots. So NLP chatbots. So if you watch our previous 2 webinars by going to our website, you should have all the answers you need about building a AI chatbot on WhatsApp. Let's see if I see someone over here has shared people are sharing a couple of links. Please let me check the Q&As. Yep, I think we have pretty much every question covered. If I did not cover your question, please be sure to message me in the comments or in the chat, and I'll be sure to answer it before we close out. But this was a great session. We're really glad you guys could join us. We're really glad the turnout could be as high as it was today. I'm going to send this link again just for good measure. Wait, hold on. I just realized. Yep. I just sent a link to all of you guys. You should be able to access, you should be able to book a demo with us using this link in case you guys want to get in touch with us. I just realized that I sent that link to all the other panelists, which is just me. But now you guys should have access to it. So if you go into the chat, you should have access to a link that you can use to book a demo with us for future conversations about WhatsApp chatbots. Thank you guys again for joining us. The slide is open on my screen right now. You should be able to see it. You can contact us through any of these channels. The first number over here, you can call us or you can WhatsApp us. You can email us, go to our website, or again, use the link that we shared in the in the chat. Use the link that you see over here, the bit.ly link. You will be able to book a demo with us through, guess what, a web-based chatbot. This is one of the custom UIs, by the way, I was talking about. You can't have a calendar UI like this in WhatsApp. So if you're booking appointments with people, you're going to have to use some AI over there to understand what time and date people are asking for. You can't use something like this calendar UI in a WhatsApp chatbot. But that's pretty much it. Use the link, book a demo with us. We'll help you through any questions that you have. We'll do a free consultation for you. We'll walk you through the business API key process. And if you want to go ahead, we'll actually get everything done for you, essentially, because we've done it so much in the last couple of months. Thank you guys for joining us. It's been a pleasure hosting this webinar for you guys. Thanks for being a great audience.